in. So this is like a courtyard. We can see what you see behind me there is the same tower. Okay, this tower was built during the Almohad period. It is about 800 years old, right? It still stands. This is one of the only standing Islamic monuments in Seville today. Unfortunately, the rest of it has been destroyed. There was a big, massive masjid right next to it. That masjid is gone now. There's a cathedral in its place. We're going to go to Al Qasar now, Al Qasar, Al Qazar to visit, inshallah. Tariq, but you want to say something? Or yeah.
Yes, very quickly. So the area that we've just walked through is known as the Khudariya. What is the Khudariya? It's called the Jewish quarter. Okay, this is the old Jewish quarter. So what you had in every single major city of Al-Andalus was Jewish quarters. The Jewish community was very, very prominent. We will talk a lot more about them once we get to Cordoba, but just to give you an idea, that under Islam, the Jewish community prospered. And just like this was a golden age for us as Muslims, the golden age of Judaism, and I mean the golden age of Judaism, was Al-Andalus. Does anybody know who the Jews, what the name of the Jews is from Spain? No? Sephardic. Thank you very much. Very good. Sephardic Jews. So the way we call Spain Al-Andalus, they call Spain Sepharda. This was Sepharda. And Sephardic Jews are from here. And anybody who knows their history, they understand that this was their golden age. Their philosophers, their
Thinkers,
politicians,
yeah.
their thinkers, their
Poets.
books that they wrote at that time. Actually, under Islam here was the revival of Judaism, and Hebrew, the language itself, was revived here. Otherwise, it was nearly completely lost. A few years ago, this Jewish intellectual, he wrote an article in which he started the article by saying that if the Muslims had not arrived in Al-Andalus in Spain when they did, in 711, the Jews would have been wiped out in Europe.
Absolutely.
Because the persecution and the annihilation of Jews was just going from strength to strength. They were hunting them down, they were wiping them out, they were completely getting rid of them. If the Muslims hadn't arrived, they would have been wiped out. But Muslims arrived and they prospered and went from strength to strength. And then when the Christians took over again, the first people they started on was the Jews. They persecuted them, they threw them out. And where did they go to? Morocco, to Istanbul, to Tunisia, to Algeria, to North Africa. All Muslim lands took them in. In fact, Muhammad al-Fatih, the conqueror of Constantinople, the one who conquered Istanbul, sent ships to pick up the Jews from here and took them to Istanbul. And they prospered and became a very, very successful community there. So under Islam, they owe so much to Islam that, like, the only reason they're still around really basically is because of the Muslims.
And this much is historically documented. What Brother Tariq is telling you are basically statements that you can do PhDs on. Literally, I mean, there is so much detail, archives, documents, the golden age of the Jewish people, their scientists, their theologians, their rabbis, some of the best rabbis. The Jewish people from Islamic Spain were the most sophisticated Jews in the world. This is why when they left from here, escaping with their lives, they got high positions in the Muslim society wherever they went because they were highly qualified. So the Muslims actually opened the doors for them, and they had the golden age from 900 to 1200. Scholars usually put these two dates. I mean, in between these 300 years, the Jewish people had their golden age in Al-Andalus, and then after the land was taken. So when the Catholics came in, why were they going after the Jewish people? Because the Jewish people to them were God killers. God killers. Who is God? Jesus Christ. And he was, what happened to him according to the Christian narrative? What do you see in the churches, in Catholic churches? What do you see? There is a man on the cross, right? And it's a very bloody picture, right? And this is the image all the Catholics had in their minds, that our God was crucified by who? By the Jewish people. So everywhere they went, they were persecuting the Jewish people in particular. Okay, but Islam had no such blame on them, because the Quran says, وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ وَلَكِنْ شُبِّهَ لَهُمْ. Jesus was not, Isa alayhi salam was not killed, he was not crucified. So the blame is lifted from anyone, right? So this is why, and even what Brother Tariq mentioned, that if they had not come here, the Muslims, they would have been extinct. The Jewish people would have been extinct from European territories, and this is very, very well documented fact. In fact, in 633 CE, there was a council, a church council in the city of Toledo, not far from here, where the Catholic Church at the time, they decreed that all the children of the Jewish people are to be snatched away from their parents and they are to be raised as Catholics. Forced conversion, okay, and they are to be raised as Catholics, and that was the beginning of the end of the Jewish people. But only Islam's intervention in 711 CE protected and saved the rest of the Jews, and then they became a global power, okay, later on. So that's it. There are books written on these topics, so we can't just go into the details, inshallah. Let's go.
The Jewish quarter during Muslim time. It's still today known as the Jewish quarter, but at that time that was the Jewish quarter. And you find one in each city: Cordoba, Granada, Toledo, here, all the cities.
Okay.